Well, hi guys. Today we're going to be talking about a difficult and dark topic. So, luckily the weather is beautiful and we are accompanied by our now uh, reliable and loyal companion, at least for those videos where I'm recording at my house. The owl is the temporary name of that entity, but if you have other suggestions, please share them. And I say it's going to be a dark video because we're going to be talking about the unconscious. And I just want to emphasize that if I talk about INFJs and INTJs in a way that sounds like it's kind of negative and it's kind of dark and it's not fair and it almost sounds like I'm against anti-dominance at times, or like I'm criticizing them, that I'm trying to dirty their reputation, soil their reputation. I mean, first of all, it's not the case. I wouldn't dedicate pretty much, my life, at least part of my life, to excavating the depths of these types if there wasn't, in addition to a deep curiosity and interest, a deep love as well. The fact of the matter is, this is something that Jung understood, of course, with his notion of the shadow, but most psychoanalysts understand who are into depth psychology. And what they understand is that as soon as you're entering the realm of the unconscious, not only is what you're going to discover and discuss tentative, right? You can't pretend that the observations and derivations of those observations have universal applicability, because they don't. You can only make conjectures, and tentative hypotheses provide narratives, but also a lot of the subject matter is going to be dark precisely because it's in the unconscious. Is what we don't want to be aware of, in a way, right? So it's there's a reason why it's buried. So if we discuss about what's buried, yes, of course, there's going to be some skeletons in the closet, as they say. So with this proviso now provided, we can proceed. I was writing notes on my NI book recently, and it's very much the same process that happened in the previous instances of me writing books. It's a wonderful realization, and a recurrence of a realization, because that realization hit me in the past, on those occasions when I was writing the notes for the Ecstatic Soul and also for the Infinite Soul, that insights just keep cropping up and accumulating and multiplying much faster than when I'm not writing, So, and I've been really interested lately in this topic of reparation, the relationship between NI and the symbolic act of reparation in the unconscious, what I call the repair fantasy with PH, namely an unconscious fantasy that narrates and organizes our experience of and in the world without us being aware of it. Jung probably would have wanted to call it the repair or the healer archetype. Maybe that's true, but I can also give you a bit of some details as regards why I don't want to call these archetypes, and I prefer calling these fantasies, right? But again, just remember, you don't need to take all that I'm going to say for granted. We're exploring the unconscious. It's a dense and deep and dark and elusive realm that takes a lot of strength to explore, and we can never pretend that our conclusions based on our observations have universal applicability, that they can be applied across the board, across all types. It's just what we can narrate from the experience. The psychoanalyst Wilfred Bion said something that I recently shared on my Patreon page. By the way, please consider joining my Patreon page. It's only a few bucks a month or a year. The link is below, and you can really massively help me, keep me going, because I could not do this without you. And you get cool perks like deep dive videos, and I have a whole archive of bonus videos for patrons where I go in depth about lots of different cool topics, recording a new one tomorrow, possibly on INFJ mysticism or NI mysticism, as suggested by a member, because often it is the Patreon members that suggest the contents to be discussed, which leads me to remind you that another big perk is access to our Discord server, the Furfold. Come join us and interact with us on a daily basis or whatever you want. There's a lot of cool people there. Now, so in this enterprise, the exploration of the INFJ unconscious and the INTJ unconscious, in fact, because I'm slowly coming to the realization that the fantasy of repair is an NI fantasy. It's not just an INFJ fantasy. It's just that it's much more easy to see in the case of the INFJ than in the case of the INTJ. And there are reasons why, okay? So a quick note on why I don't want to talk about archetypes. I think that Jungian archetypes have a lot in common with what I call fantasies with PH, in the sense that they are also symbolic inner representations that are concrete, not abstract, that are condensed accumulations and concatenations of experience over long stretches of time, and that in a sense they have their own logic, they have their own life, you know, they survive us. I just think that, you know, obviously one thing that Jung really was clear about is that archetypes are the same in all people and are universal in that sense, right? They are present in every psyche, regardless of whether you're a Chinese person in the 16th century or, you know, you live in West Africa in the 1st century or in 21st century New York. Doesn't matter. The same archetypes are activated in you. Surely they evolve slowly, so perhaps the archetypal landscape of the West African in the 1st century is a little different than the one, you know, that is activated in 21st century New York, but they are still essentially the same landscape. I don't think that fantasies, as I understand them, are quite as universal. So the repair fantasy seems to be specifically an NI fantasy. I don't think it's present, or at least nearly with as much potency and activation in other types. So in that regard, fantasies are different. I also think that they evolve more quickly than archetypes. Archetypes really, Jung was quite clear, they change or evolve, develop very, very slowly over very vast stretches of time. I think fantasies evolve more quickly across a lifetime, okay? So that's the main difference. So you might say that fantasies are have a lot in common with archetypes, but they are more personal and so not collective, personal agents, representatives of the archetypes in an individual psyche, but they are still collective in the sense that in a type you will find the same fundamental fantasies, okay? Now, I think this video has been going on for a while, so I'll stop here. Consider this an introduction to this new excavation of the archetypal, or rather, sorry, the phantasmatic NI unconscious. In the next video, we'll talk a bit more about why INTJs and INFJs have the same repair fantasy, expressed in different ways via through the mediation of their functions of judgment, FETI or FITE. And we'll start looking also at where this fundamental fantasy of repair comes from. We've already touched on it in previous videos, of course, but I think now we can go quite a bit deeper. Okay, guys, don't forget to give me a like, because this helps with referencing a lot, get a lot more views. So please give me a like. It doesn't take any of your time. Don't forget, you can get, if you want a deep understanding of the inner mind, the inner world, the whole inner world of the INFJ, the Ecstatic Soul is still the way to go. It's available at the link below in the description box. A go-to book on the INFJ that you should definitely get if you want to understand this type in depth, as well as its sequel, The Infinite Soul, INFJ Life in the Modern World, which is more about the interaction between the INFJ inner world and the outer world. Okay, see you guys tomorrow. I'm excited to do this together with you. Bye-bye.